the science geek. Tommy, the science geek. The science geek. Tommy, the science geek. Hey guys, I'm Thamid, and have you ever wondered how the weather changes so quickly? Well, today we're going to find out. Weather mainly changes because of interactions and movements of air. An air mass is a body of air where temperature and moisture content are similar throughout. Let's take it to Jalen, who's going to explain to you more about air mass.
There are three types of cold air masses: CP, which stands for continental polar, MP, which stands for maritime polar, and another MP, which stands for another maritime polar. CP forms over northern Canada. It also brings cool and dry weather to the U.S. In summer, it brings dry and cold weather. MP forms over the North Pacific, and the coast of the Pacific is very cool and wet. It brings snow and rain to the coast. The other MP, you already know what that means, and it forms over the North Atlantic, and it brings cool and cloudy weather to the rain to New England. Now we're going to take you to Thamid.
Hi, I am Hyuk. There are 4 types of warm air masses that affects the U.S. The maritime tropical air mass. Another maritime tropical air mass forms over the Gulf of Mexico and the Atlantic. The continental tropical air mass forms over the deserts in northern Mexico and the southwestern U.S. Both the warm and the cold air mass meet each other and create fronts. The continental tropical air mass forms over the deserts in northern Mexico, the deserts in northern U.S. and the southwestern U.S. Both the warm and the meet each other and create each other and create fronts.
I hope you learned a lot about air masses. Now we're going to take you to Young, who's going to explain to you about fronts.
Hey people, I'm Young. A front is the boundary between air masses of different densities and usually different temperatures. Also, the fronts are air masses that form from different areas and often do not mix. The part that I think is interesting is the fact that when 2 types of air moves and meet, the warm air generally rises. Oh right, there are several types of fronts. The first one is the cold front. The cold front moves quickly and brings thunderstorms. Not only that, but the cold fronts are where cold air moves under warm air, which is less dense and pushes the warm air up. The second is the warm air front. A warm air front is where air moves over cold. A front is the boundary between air masses of different densities and usually air and is followed by also the fronts are air masses that form from different areas and often do not mix. The part that I think is interesting is the fact that when 2 types of air moves and meet, the warm air generally rises. Oh right, there are several types of fronts. The first one is the cold front. The cold front moves quickly and brings thunderstorms. Not only that, but the cold fronts are where cold air moves under warm air, which is less dense and pushes the warm air up. The second is the warm air front. A warm air front is where air moves over cold and denser air. The warm front brings drizzly air and is followed by clearer and warm weather.
But Young, you forgot something, like the occluded air mass.
What?
Like the occluded shown here. The occluded front is a front that cold air goes underneath the warm air and pushes the warm air up. There's one more front. It is called the stationary front. It is formed when a clump of warm air mass meets a clump of cold air mass. But there isn't enough force to make an occluded front. In other words, the 2 air masses stay separated.
Action.
I hope you learned a lot about fronts. Now I'm going to explain to you about what cyclones, anticyclones, and the weather regarding the cyclone and the anticyclones. A cyclone is an area of low pressure where air converges and rises. Now I'm going to show you a mini model of a cyclone. This is a mini cyclone I made out of 2 bottles, and I used some water and a bit of food coloring. Here, I'll show you how it works. Did you see it? Now I'm going to tell you how this works. First of all, when I turn it around, imagine that I'm putting the air, making the air come together. And when I shake it, it's converging. And that forms the cyclone. So that's my mini cyclone. Well, a cyclone is, when the cyclone rises, the air cools down and sometimes creates clouds and rain. So that's the weather regarding a cyclone. And now I'm going to introduce you what an anticyclone is. An anticyclone is an area of high pressure where air sinks. Sinking air moves to areas of lower pressure, which sometimes creates a cyclone. So that's mainly the cycle of the anticyclones and cyclones. Now I'm going to tell you what the weather is regarding the cyclone and anticyclones. Like I said before, the cyclones create rain and clouds. An anticyclone absorbs all the moisture while it's sinking. The cool sinking air absorbs all moisture, making it warm and clear. It's clear, warm air. So that's mainly the weather regarding the cyclones and anticyclones. I hope you enjoyed this episode. See you next time on Bill Nye the Science Guy. Action.